were designing recursive methods on arrays, we were not just only passing the array to the method, we were also passing the length of this array. But you know that in Java, we can find the length of the array by using the instance variable length. So naturally, if we want to call these methods, we don't want to pass the size as an input parameter. For recursive methods that process arrays, for example, array sum, it has two input parameters, a, which is the array, and n is the size. We have to pass the methods both the array and the size of the array for each call, because n is required for this method. However, we prefer to write a method that is passed only the array without passing the size, like calling the method with the input parameter the array only without the size. But you know that the size is compulsory for these methods. But since the second parameter, which is the size, is required for the recursive process, then we can make the recursive method as a helper method that is called within the method that has only the array as input parameter. What does that mean? It means you define two overloaded methods, one with the input parameter only the array, the other one is the recursive method that has the array with the size. And within the body of the method that has only the array as input parameter, you call the recursive method by passing the array as well as the length of the array by using the instance variable length. Here is an example on how to define a recursive method as a helper method. The method is sum for finding the sum of all elements of an array. It has two input parameters, the array as well as the size of the array. The size of the array is required as an input parameter because it is used for the recursive call. So we want to call this method by passing only the array, not passing the size of the array. So therefore, we define an overload method that accepts only the array as an input parameter. And within the body of this method, we call the recursive method by supplying the array as well as the length of the array using the instance variable length. So therefore, the recursive method becomes a helper method for the method that accepts only the array as an input parameter. Notice that the helper method is defined as a private static method, so it cannot be called from outside the class. If you want to call this method, then you have to call it through the public method that accepts only the array as input parameter. So now how to call this method? Inside main, we have defined an array and initialized all its elements with 3, 5, 1, and 6. And now we call the method that accepts only the array within the class array. And then when this method accepts the array, then it's going to call the helper method, which is the recursive method for finding the sum of all elements of the array.